Get asked quite often what the best way was to hunt buffalo. You see a lot of the Hollywood movies that show you with the warriors riding gallantly alongside the herds and taking down numerous buffalo in one hunt. While that would be a nice thing to have happen, it unfortunately wasn't always true. This was an incredibly dangerous task for them to undergo. I would say a buffalo hunt was even more dangerous than going to war. With going to war, at least you have some idea of what your enemy is going to do. You've fought them before, you're familiar with their customs. A buffalo is a completely different story. They're about 2,000 pounds of cantankerous animal. They can run as fast as a horse, they can turn sharper than a horse, and their favorite thing to do is when they are threatened, if they're on the run, they will put that great big head down and they'll hook one of these big horns underneath whatever's chasing them, and they'll flip their head up and flip the pursuer off of its feet. And then they'll swing around and they'll come back and they'll run you over. So they're not a very friendly creature. To hunt them was incredibly dangerous. You were a buffalo hunter. You had the best horse, you had the best skill level, and quite oftentimes you had been developing this skill level as a hunter since you were a very, very small boy. In the height of buffalo hunting, there were herds that consisted of over 1 million animals. You can imagine climbing to a hilltop and seeing nothing but a sea of black in front of you, as far as the eye could see, and that was all buffalo. Well, if you're going to hunt buffalo, you don't want to stampede over 1 million animals. They're going to destroy everything in their path. They had worked out several ingenious ways of actually mingling into the herd, and slowly over a period of, it might even be over a couple of days, they would weed out a small portion of that herd, maybe 50, 60 animals. That had various sized animals in it that they could safely, or at least try to be safe about it, start riding alongside and trying to hunt them. So they would get this small group of animals off by itself, and that's when the hunt would really begin. Usually they'd ride into the animals, they would parallel the herd as they started moving, and they would use bows and arrows. They would also use hunting lances. You have to imagine 40 miles an hour over uneven terrain. You can't steer your horse with anything but your legs, and you have to have your hands free to hunt this animal, and you're just praying that the buffalo is not going to put his head down and gore your horse or gore you in the leg, or just flat out change direction and run you and your horse over. They did develop other techniques for buffalo hunting. If the ground wasn't ideal for hunting, it was too uneven or rocky, or there wasn't enough room to conduct a buffalo hunt, if you were up against cliffs or in a wooded area, a lot of times they would look for a place called a buffalo jump, and that would involve a very steep cliff with a kind of a flat plateau across the top that they could run the herd toward the edge. The leading animals would not see the edge of the cliff in time, and they would go over. Well, the animals behind would just be following the ones in front, so they would also go over the cliff. That was probably the safest way to hunt buffalo. They have dug down into those sites today, and they have found buffalo bones that they think date as far back as 60,000 years. So you can imagine this knowledge of how to hunt these animals, how long this has been going on, and it's been done the same way that whole time. So the next time you see an image of a buffalo hunt, or you see the Hollywood movie, the glorified version of buffalo hunting, keep in mind just how dangerous it truly was.